Brand new episode of Squeaky Bum Time, and it's really, really exciting to have Keish back here in the studio. We keep changing settings. Yeah. I don't care. What matters is the conversations that we have, the content we generate. Charlie Adam and Kevin Campbell are here. You look tired.
I am very tired.
Oh, it's the time zones. It's a killer.
I can't remember Charlie looking even this knackered after some of the games that he played in the Premier League.
Exactly.
It's been a long 3 or 4 days. I'm tired. Jet lag is setting in.
I'll be honest, I'm looking at the clock above Charlie's head. It's 5 minutes to 3, which means he's been awake for 12 hours and... No, 11 hours and 55 minutes to be precise, and he only had 3 hours sleep. So, Kevin, on the other hand, you're similar, aren't you? You've hardly slept too.
Yeah, I've hardly slept. But I'm used to not sleeping a lot. So, you know, Charlie needs his beauty sleep.
Is that
I don't.
Is that because
you know, he needs his beauty sleep. I don't need to sleep that much.
Is that because Ian Wright's so loud he would just wake you up?
No, he used to go to sleep. I used to see him go to sleep and wake up and he'd say, "Are you still awake?" There you go.
That extreme?
Yeah.
We need to get him checked out at the doctor's.
I've done all that.
You did that?
I've done all, of course, because they were worried. They used to think, well, "Why aren't you sleeping?" But they said, you know, obviously you don't need a lot of sleep. And when you do sleep, you get quality sleep. So.
And that's
2 hours, 1 hour.
What you need in your career, isn't it? Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity, definitely.
How many hours did you clock in, honestly? Roughly, on average, when you were a player at least?
I'd sleep as much as I can. I loved it.
I loved it.
So, some players really, and we've heard this a fair few times as well. Who is the guy that I remember?
The most famous is Michael Essien.
Yes, Michael Essien, yes, I remember.
He would train and go home and sleep.
Yeah, I would do that as well.
You would just go home and sleep?
I would go and train, go home maybe 2 o'clock, and I'd sleep to maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, get up, have dinner, I'd watch a game, and then go back to bed at 10 o'clock. That was regular for a long time.
Did it affect who you roomed with?
I always roomed on my own.
Wow,
or I was at home after training.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, when you were...
And I had no kids at that time, so it was easy to get asleep.
Easy to get a kid. Myself, always roomies back then, but it didn't matter. They could sleep.
Who was the best roomie? Who was the worst? Be honest here. Who?
Well, we
sleep
got.
talk and...
I could tell you this. It was pre-season, and I got. We went to play Plymouth.
Well, you're with which team? Sorry.
Arsenal.
You were with
went
Arsenal
to play Plymouth, and they put me with Paul Merson. And that was the most interesting afternoon, because normally they say, you know, get in the afternoon, get to bed, get your head down for a couple of hours and da. Never slept. But I was there laying on the bed, watching him on CFAX, because CFAX used to be like the text message of the TV.
It was like the pre-internet effectively for news.
So it was like texting of the TV. But what he's doing, he's checking up on the horses, he's checking up on the dogs, even bowls. He was gambling on everything from the CFAX.
Yeah.
And when he wins, he'll be like, yeah, get me going crazy, yeah. And when he loses, he'll be throwing his shoes around and all sorts. It was 2 hours that I'd never get back, I tell you.
So was that a good roommate or bad roommate?
Well, what do you think?
I don't know.
It weren't great, was it?
No, you wanted to sleep.
Well, it's not that I wanted to sleep, but, you know, just calmness. But he's there and he's up, and it just made me laugh, like, you know, so I suppose it weren't a bad one. No. Steve Bold probably, when I roomed with Steve Bold once.
Is there room? Because he's about 6'5".
Yeah, but we're not in the same bed, are we?
I don't know. Times were
but
tough.
You know what? Obviously, I'm awake most of the night. He's non-stop farting. He farted all night. It's the truth. He farted all night, and I'm telling you, some of the smells that were coming out of that guy, man. Jesus.
Healthy living, wasn't it?
Yeah, healthy living. You know,
Better
to
out
get
than
it out,
in.
it's got to get out, right?
Yeah.
But God, it was like.
That bad?
Yeah.
Now that's something I never thought I'd ever hear.
No.
Steve Bonfanta.
Yeah. I mean, Charlie, you were here in Malaysia before. Do you remember who your roommate was here?
On my own.
Always
Even
on your
here?
own?
Always on my own, yeah. When you're at every club I've been to, apart from at Blackpool, I've been on my own, and that's normal because the big clubs don't want players sharing rooms, because the reason is because if one of you get ill, then the other one's going to catch the infection as well. So they try and separate everybody around, and then you know, and that's the thing is that what happens if you've got two midfielders in the room and both of them are playing, and they both catch the infection? then you've lost 2 players instead of losing
Instead
one.
of one, yeah.
So that's why clubs now allow their players to go and have their own rooms.
Let me ask you this then. Whose room do people gather in? Because you're not all just going to file off to your own room, right?
Yeah, no.
There's usually somebody.
Nah, no, really, no. A lot of lads go and play PlayStation, but I was never into PlayStations or that. I would just go and have a coffee, or I'd watch a game in the hotel the night before a game. Or I'd go to my own room. I wouldn't. Majority of the time, everybody would end up in the treatment room, huh?
Well, that's one thing I was going to say. If there was like a masseur's room, a lot of lads will and have banter and a laugh with the masseur. Yeah, that's normal.
Because I can imagine you talking tactics to the manager.
No, I would be in the treatment room having a laugh and a joke, messing it up.
Messing up the jokes or messing up the...
Messing up the treatment room.
Okay.
Having a good laugh, throwing a bit of cream around, enjoying ourselves. No, it was good fun.
Dynamics within the reason why I said the tactics thing was a slight in-joke, because I'm not sure if you guys know about, he knows, we talked about earlier, parched. Does that mean anything to you if I say parched? Does it mean anything to you? Charlie, do you want to do the honours and explain?
You explain.
Okay. So Peter Crouch has a podcast.
Okay.
Very popular podcast. And
I made it big, so there you go.
he is responsible. The reason Peter Crouch's podcast is big is because he revealed on his show there was one player, didn't say who, but he was nicknamed Parched, because pre-season it's hot, you're in Malaysia, for example.
You're thirsty.
Everyone's going for a drink except for one player who'll be over with the manager, just having a chin wag with the manager, just talking to the manager. So he became known as Parched, and no one knew who it was. Nobody. Some people had to come out and say it wasn't me, like Jermaine Genus, until Charlie came about, and you were parched.
That's why I was well hydrated before training, wasn't I? And I don't need to drink before it.
I like that. That's a brilliant answer.
Using experience, asking the coach, knowing that my career was going to go into coaching, understanding the game, getting experience of your Mark Hughes and people that have been around the game, played at the highest level. You can't buy these stories, huh?
That's true. And I tell you what, I went onto your Twitter and I found that you even put up a picture in response to this. You and Sir Kenny Dalglish saying, "This is why I'm parched." I can't remember the exact caption, but it was...
In esteemed company, isn't he?
Yeah, well, in esteemed company.
There you go, in esteemed company.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Charlie,
That's right.
What was this common across the Premier League clubs, or was this sort of concept of one player's always talking to the manager?
I think you have to be a strong character to do that in front of the lads sometimes, because you could be down for getting a right ribbing, you know, you're a manager's boy and all that kind of thing. That didn't really happen at Arsenal much, although George Graham, for instance, took all the training. He was an excellent coach, and obviously his results and his record says it all. But the lads tended to stick together. When it was time to be with the manager and coaches, you stuck with them, and there was time where we were away. So there weren't really one player.
You know, the best part about this Parch story? He had no idea. You had no idea until a groundsman came up to you after the Peter Crouch podcast.
Yeah, when I was at Reading, somebody asked me, and I still didn't have a clue. So I phoned Crouchy up and asked him, and he told me, yeah, and he just said, like, would you come on the show and reveal yourself? I said, absolutely, no problem. So yeah, I made his podcast famous, so I'm waiting for an invite back on it.
Yeah, he's never invited you back. Well,
no.
he needs to.
Yeah. Not just invite, you've got to get royalties at this point.
Yeah. You've got the show in December, don't you?
Yeah, I got a text all day. They're doing a big show in London, so I've been invited to it now. So yeah, I might make a little trip there and see how it is.
He's even got mugs with Parched on it. It's amazing. I love this story so much. Yeah. I just love it. And the way, obviously, Peter Crouch tells it much better than I do. I'm going from memory here.
So what are you calling me now, Sleepy?
If we were all one of the 7 dwarves, you would be Sleepy. Let's put it that way. I'm not sure who I would be. But anyway, this is completely off tangent, because I know you had prepared a topic for today, Keish.
No, not really a topic, but rather a conversation about circumstances at a football club. We're recording this podcast on a weekend where a couple of clubs find themselves in distasteful positions. You've got the obvious one, Leicester City, obviously. A lot of expectations on them. Last season they did relatively okay. This season barely any business in the transfer window, and now suddenly they find themselves in almost like a crisis position, despite having a roster of incredible players. And then you've got Liverpool. Now, I wouldn't put them on a similar pedestal, obviously, because Liverpool aren't at where Leicester are. And it will be unfair to say that Liverpool are in a crisis as well. But you could argue that things aren't exactly going on really well at the club at the moment. So I'm very curious, because Charlie, Kevin, the both of you have played in the Premier League. You've been a part of teams through the ups and the downs. And more often than not, we hear stories of the ups. We hear the beautiful, the glorious stories of what it's like to be a part of the winning days. But when things aren't exactly going well, I'm curious, what is it like in that dressing room? Because it must be intense, it must be confusing, it must be frustrating. And how do you navigate something like that? So maybe I'll start with you, Charlie. If you're part of that Liverpool dressing room at the moment, what would it be like internally at this point? Because before the season, they were being earmarked as title challengers.
Well, they'll be having discussions regular. They'll be looking back at the mistakes. But the biggest thing you're going to be saying is stick together. We're a group that has been successful. We know how to win. We know we've been champions. We've been to the 3 European Cup finals in the last 5 years. We've got some of the best players in the world. We're having a tough period. But we need people to stick together. We cannot have people going off and doing their own thing and thinking they're too good and they're better than what they are. So the message from Jurgen will be stick together and we'll be okay, because we know that we've got players in here that will hurt teams, and there'll be no doubt that Liverpool will turn it round.
Class is permanent. That's one thing. The expectation level, obviously, because of Jurgen Klopp and what the team have done over the last 4 or 5 years, the expectation level's gone through the roof at Liverpool, and the standards at that club are high anyway. But this team have been probably the most consistent, or one of the most consistent teams on the planet for the last 4 or 5 years. So when you do drop a few levels below that, it's going to feel like a crisis to fans. But the key people, Jurgen Klopp, his coaching staff, etc., you try and stick to the same things that got you the success, because that's what you have to do. It's got you success before, so why would you change? Maybe you tweak things. They tweaked the system a little bit against Rangers in the Cup. Nobody could say they didn't play well against Arsenal. They played a lot better than they had done. If they'd played like that against Brighton, they beat Brighton. If they played like that against Fulham, they beat Fulham. So I think we're seeing Liverpool respond. You may not see it in the result, but I think this is a huge weekend. They're going to be at home. Anfield's going to be really aggressive, and I think they're gonna really go for City. So again, that's what the manager's going to want. He's going to want that response from the team.
What about internally and the leaders within the side? Because I'm sure fights happen. I'm sure arguments happen. You hear all the reports about Manchester United, particularly last year, dressing room bust-ups, and we were talking about this early on with Stoke. You called out publicly a few of your teammates. You said we've been getting away with murder when you got relegated. So obviously not everyone can be on the same page. Not everyone will care as much. You could argue, perhaps. I don't know.
Listen, there'll be lads in that group that are dominant forces in terms of in that squad. You've Virgil van Dijk's, Henderson, Milner, Robertson, Trent, Thiago. You know, they'll be the ones that are demanding from each other that, you know, this is not accepted, this is not good enough, we know it's not good enough. And you just keep looking at videos, you look at what's going wrong. Some players are playing below the level that they are, we know that. But because they're English and it's a British press and it's the high profile players, then it's escalated a little bit more than what it actually should be. So yeah, like Kev said, when you drop below standard when you're at Liverpool, then it's a crisis. There is a crisis because it's not what they're expected, and that's not what they're used to. It's like Manchester United when it's been a crisis for a number of years for different reasons because they're used to winning. And at the moment, Liverpool have had a tough start to the season. Then it's Jurgen's going to be out. It's 7-year syndrome. It's this and that. It's no, just keep doing the right things, work hard every day, and your chances will come and it'll turn.
But during, not so much on the Liverpool aspect now, because only they know what's happening in the dressing room, but during your playing careers, I mean, Charlie, how would you handle what you would deem as subpar performances from...
I tell people.
Straight to their face?
Straight to their face. I've had many arguments, I've had many disagreements, I've had fights, I've had, you know, it's part and parcel of the game. You're passionate, you want to succeed, you want to be the best. Nobody wants to see your team bottom of the league or close to the bottom of the league and getting beat every week. It's hard to take because you care. And people say about, we discussed it last night, you can earn as much money in the world, and people say, the first thing people say, they don't care, they're earning too much. A lot of rubbish. These players care. The pride for the football club, for the supporters who pay very good money to come and watch them, and they hurt for each other because they've been so special together, and as a group of players, it's hurting because they're getting criticism. Nobody wants to get criticism. Everybody loves a pat in the back and say, oh, you're a good player and that. But when the criticism comes, that's tough to take.
Were you like Charlie? Were you the type to actually confront another teammate if you think that they're not delivering?
Listen, if you know, because as players we know, if you know somebody's not putting it in, then listen, it's not just me. There was other players who was captains at previous clubs. For instance, Everton. I'm wearing the armband, but you know, David Weir, Richard Goff. Goffey was another one. Abel Xavier, Dave Unsworth, Big Fergie, Big Dunk. If you're not doing it, you're going to get called out. But that is what you expect. That's what we were brought up on. If you're not doing it, you're going to get told. And it's not necessarily when things are going bad. If things are going good and you play a game and you're not doing it, you're going to get called out. So these are just fundamental things that need to be addressed. But when things are going bad, sometimes you do have to bite your tongue a little bit because everybody's suffering.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just about, when you're losing, it's not just about coming in and arguing and fighting amongst each other. Sometimes silence is key, yeah. And just sitting and thinking about your own performance. Because sometimes it's your own performances, you know. Because you can be digging somebody out.
Deflecting it.
But deflecting away from yourself. So sometimes you've got to look at yourself first and foremost and be ready at the right moment to say the right thing. Because if you don't say the right thing, because you don't know what's going on personally in somebody else's life across that dressing room. You know, the mother, the father, the brother, sister could be ill in hospital and he doesn't want to talk to anybody, but he's having a tough time and it's affecting his game and you're going on and blah, blah. Emotion, it's emotion. So you've got to think of the right moment, the right players who you can say what to and how. And that's key in the dressing room. And these Liverpool players now will be, I think they will be criticising each other, they'll be in each other's ear, they'll be talking to each other. But most importantly, they'll be sticking together, and that's what you have to do.
Adam, I'll tell you this. Charlie makes a really good point there, because there's some players who cannot take it. They cannot take you digging them out because it feels to them like you're really criticising them. So what you then have to do, you have to know you've got to know the temperature and know the players. Sometimes you don't do it on the match day, you do it maybe on the Monday. If you play on the Saturday, you go in on the Monday or the next day and you speak to him on the training pitch, or you speak to him before training or whatever. Say, what's up? You know, you're better than that. And you might not get the response you want, but you're hoping there's going to be a reaction, because that's what you do it for. You do it for the reaction.
There's something quite unique in that you have a son that's currently playing, and your son is a former teammate of Charlie's. It's odd how you're both here in the country at the same time. So you've seen, particularly for you, Charlie, someone who started in just before the mid-2000s, only recently retired. Has it been toned down in how you can talk to players?
It has at times, and I know how to.
Like his son?
Yeah, I know how to what Ty needs. I know that Ty needs a little arm around the shoulder sometimes. And I've played in the same team as him, and he's not played well. But I know that if I went overboard and I was saying, hey, it's no. You
can break him.
I could break him.
Yeah.
He's a young kid.
Yeah.
So what do? I put an arm around him. Everything okay? You all right? Don't worry about it. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make mistakes. Young, learn from it. That's just experience of what you are and who you are in the dressing room. But I know that I can ignite a flame with somebody else, a Shawcross or Johnny Waters. I know that even though I'm not playing well, I can have a go at him because I know that he knows that I'm getting frustrated because of my own performance. So you take it out on something else.
And he'll take it the right way.
They take it the right way.
Yeah.
So it's knowing the characters amongst your team and your group and whatever you got. because you want the best for everybody.
But that's a skill in itself, to know which player needs an arm and which player needs.
That's knowing people's character and.
Not everyone has that. Not everyone has the ability to differentiate.
They don't. And but you've got to assess what's in your dressing room and type of people you have, and like I said, everybody's different. You don't know what's going on in people's personal lives.
Who is the example of an individual that you guys have played with that completely and only responded to fire, that he was great at dealing with harsh criticisms, that he would usually respond really well to something like that?
Rooney, I don't know. Sorry.
Well, not so much. No, not so much Rooney, because I mean Rooney was incredible player, but he's so quiet off the pitch.
But this one, you were with him when he was very young.
Yeah, but again, I can only speak until he was 17, because at 17 he went to Manchester United. But somebody like Tommy Gravison, midfielder, that arm around the shoulders won't work with Tommy. He needs it raw. He needs it, hey, you're not doing it, and you've got to step up because they're running all over us in midfield. And he's got to have a ramp back, and then he'll refocus. You know he'll refocus, then second half he'll step up. And then he'll look at you and you look at him and just nod.
He's a big time card player now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
He's making millions.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he is. He is. He is. But he's the type of character who you knew softly won't work with him. You've got to go bang on. And you know what? All the clubs, at Arsenal was full of them. 8 of the first team will dig you out. If you're not dirty, they'll dig you out. Tony Adams was the best captain I've seen at that. Knowing who to put an arm around, knowing who to kick up the backside. And some he would just keep quiet and have a word with him on the training pitch. So really interesting, really interesting. Stuart Pearce was good like that, was a little different. Another good captain. And I learned a lot from those guys. Learned a lot.
And then look at Liverpool. You got Gerrard as the captain, one of the most extraordinary captains Liverpool have ever had in their history as a player. But it looked like Carragher was the one that was doing most of the talking.
Yeah, that would be normal. But Stevie did his talking on the pitch.
Yeah.
Stevie was the one that would go and
lead by example.
Lead on the pitch, show his talents on the pitch. Cara would come in and say things, and Pepe Reina would say things. Everybody's different. You know, it's like you said, everybody has different characteristics, everybody has different mentality, and Stevie just knew that, you know, I could go on the pitch and show that I was the best player, and that's what he done. How
do you deal with argumentative players though? Because I look at Carragher and I see him on TV, I'm thinking he looks like he might enjoy an argument.
Well, it depends on if you're the manager, doesn't it? Because you can only go so far with the player, because then it becomes personal, or it becomes an opportunity that you can either bring him off, or, you know, I've seen managers that you have a go and you have a ding dong with, and at the end of the day he's got the final decision. Off you come. And you hear players backtracking. No, off you come. So it's just the way, that's how it is. It's just knowing at the right point as a manager, there's enough being said and you don't have to say any more. And that comes with experience as being a manager.
What about players who aren't used to the British system? Now, Bojan at Stoke, Ibrahim Afellay at Stoke.
Different characters.
Different, but do you think that you had to kind of treat them with kid gloves initially, because they're not used to the Premier League, they're not used to English football, let alone somewhere like the Britannia? Is it different with them? With players like that?
You get to know their character in the first few weeks of the season and pre-season and what they're going to be like. You know, he was a fiery character. You know, he said a few things.
Bojan?
No, Afellay. He would say a few things, but what he would say would be too close to the bone, too
hurtful.
Too hurtful, yeah. Too personal. Where
he's Dutch, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the Dutch are like that. A lot of them.
And he would say things that were, that's too low. You don't need to say that. And but Bojan was one that you can have a go, but also there's a certain how much of how you can have a go to him.
The way you do it.
Yeah. But he would like the arm around the shoulder, and I said characters are all different. I'd prefer a manager to have a go at me and I could prove him wrong. I don't need the arm around the shoulder. I just want somebody to, if I'm not playing well, listen, if I wasn't playing well, I'd know myself, and I'm self-critical, so if a manager shouted at me, I'd have a go back maybe, or what, but if he was coming to have a go, then majority of the time I'd probably just sit and take it, because I know myself, I'm not played well.
I'm looking at Liverpool, for example, one of the examples that we brought up just now. One of the things that will probably be said around or in the dressing room is the fact that only last season they were literally in the finals of every competition they could possibly play in, and they also came incredibly close to pushing Man City in the league title. So in times of trouble and despair, you hold on to things like that to remind yourself of that is who we truly are. But that's Liverpool. And I'm thinking of a team like Leicester, for example. If you're in that dressing room, what are the things that you're holding on to at a point in which everything seems to not be going your way? Because when it rains, it truly pours,
right?
Yeah.
So for me, when I think of myself being in that Leicester dressing room, and you look around and you see Maddison and Vardy, Tielemans, and you see the quality that they've got. They've got some really good players. And you're going to say to yourself, we should not be where we are. And you say to yourself, it will turn itself around. Yeah, we're going to have to come together as a team and do whatever. But a lot of the teams that they play, they've got more quality than the opposition. So, Charlie mentioned it before. There's some self-analysis that has to go on. You've got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing my job? And am I doing enough? And if I'm doing enough, then I could start looking at the man beside me. Because whether we like it or not, there's all different facets to the team. 2 stages of every game. There's with the ball and without the ball. Leicester with the ball, they've shown they can do it. Without the ball, they've been awful. And that's the hard yards that Leicester have to get back to. They've got to get back to being better without the ball. Because when the opposition have the ball, the tracking and all that kind of thing, it's non-existent a lot of the time. That's hard.
The other area...
I look at Leicester, sorry to interrupt, I look at Leicester, they lose Kasper Schmeichel, they lose Fofana, Tielemans is
half gone, isn't it?
Is half gone, he's mentally gone in his head, you can see that he's not got his move to Arsenal in summer. They've lost a couple of other big players. Maddison's probably the only one, Vardy's getting a little bit older. Maddison's probably the only one that's played to a decent enough level that warrants a bit of interest, bit of England call-up.
He's playing for a move, isn't he?
Yeah, so everybody then becomes disjointed in terms of we've all got different ideas and plans of what we're doing in our careers.
Focus.
The focus is totally different.
Yeah.
And it's been difficult for Brendan because financial fair play, they've not been able to spend any money, they've not been able to buy anybody, and this is the season that's become a problem, and it's now up to an owner that's young, relatively, in top. It's does he stick by what Brendan's done before, or does he look to change manager? I don't think changing manager at Leicester at the moment would be any different from keeping Brendan. I think Brendan's a top manager, so if they do lose him, it's only going to be Leicester's loss, and they have to just get through this season in terms of fighting. If they have to fight relegation, they have to fight relegation. They have to just get through this season, and everything will start to turn. And like you say, losing big characters in that squad this season has been a blow for them, and we'll see where they go by the end of the season. But Leicester have got good enough players to push up that league.
Well, what I did want to ask was about Brendan Rodgers, because he publicly criticised the team when they lost against Forest in the Cup back in January. He's also admitted that the signings they made last year were backup signings, they're not first-team signings. He has cut an extremely frustrated figure because he doesn't have the players. You lose so many players, yet you're not bringing anybody in, let alone anybody of quality. Do you think he even wants to be there? That's a question for another time, because is that true in the first place? Have you ever come across a manager that you're looking at them and you're thinking, I don't think the manager fancies the fight here. I think he wants his payout, because if he asks to leave, he's not going to get the money. Is that a thing? The managers at times, have you ever seen a manager go through the motions because he doesn't want to be there anymore? He's not been backed by the board, whatever?
Whichever way you want to spin it, whether he wants to be there or he doesn't want to be there, it's a results business. That's the bottom line. And when pressure hits, I've seen managers totally change when the real pressure's on.
Change in what sense? What do you mean?
Their demeanour, their attitude, who they are as people. Because normally most managers are decent people. But when the pressure's on and the flak's flying, Adam, trust me, being on the inside, you get in that dressing room, you've just got beat again at the weekend, and there's all negativity around.
And you can know managers are trying to make things up to try and get the boys to keep going. The videos that they've never done before, and you see it in managers. You could see it how they coach and how they, you know, they're just dreading that moment. You know, I had it with a manager that the moment's coming, it's coming. You could feel it themselves, and it's a weight off the shoulder when it actually comes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's a tough gig, but unfortunately, I'm not in that position now in terms of a player that can change it. I'm obviously going to be stood on the other side, and I'm going to have that pressure. So hopefully, at one point in my career, where the going's going to get tough for me, and it's how I handle that as a person. And the big thing is, you got to stay strong and stay to your beliefs and what you've got.
Yeah. What sort of a manager do you think you'll be in terms of your outfit?
He's Scottish. He'll be simple and classy.
Yeah, I'll try and wear a suit if I can. Yeah.
And so the other thing is, in terms of team talks, obviously speeches are speeches, but team talks are the interesting one because you have to do it. If you have 38 games in a season, you've got to do it 38 times. Doing it when the team is doing well is one thing because you keep it simple. Your team is generally playing well, but trying to manage team talk at a time where things aren't going well. When you're on a bad run of form, 8 games in a row, for example, you've not won. How do you then manage the team talk? Because
you're not in a job if you've lost 8 in a row.
I mean, some managers are still in a job after eight defeats in a row.
Or you haven't won for 8 games.
Yeah, you haven't won for 8 games.
Won for 8 games. Well, what I will say is, we suffered some of that at West Brom, some of that feeling at West Brom, and you probably think the team talk gets more complex. The harder the defeats and the results, but actually it should get more simple. You got to go out and win. You've got to better your opponent, your direct opponent, and if we can do that, more of our team does that against the opposition. Game plan set, we set up we set up how we want to play, we set up how we want to hurt them. We know what they do. Just do your job. It's not rocket science now.
What was team talks like under Josh Graham?
George Graham was pretty much like that, to be honest. George Graham used to always say to us, listen, we believe in the players in here. We know what we've got to do. Just go out and win. He said, I want clean sheets. If we keep a clean sheet, we'll win the game. We will win the game. So we're prepped, we're ready to go. Just go and do it, guys. And that was his team talk most of the time. Nothing too fancy.
How vocal were you if you disagreed with what a manager was asking you to do or how they just set up tactically, whatever it might be for a game? Something which you thought was wrong? Would you challenge the manager?
I had the situation when I was at Dundee. I was captain, we were losing, and the manager came in and played 3 at the back, and I said to him after the game, I don't think this group of players are comfortable with 3 at the back, with the players that we had. And he disagreed with me. But then he went to look at it again, and we never played 3 at the back again. So,
he listened.
Was I right or was I wrong?
You were definitely
was I right to challenge him? People know me that, I say how I feel and
well,
what
you made
I
your point, Charlie,
I made my point.
You?
I just felt the group were not stable enough, and we were playing 3 at the back. I never felt that the players were comfortable being able to try and play out for the back, or centre backs getting dragged into wide areas. It was killing us, and we never really worked on it. So I felt I had to say something at the time, and yeah, we never played well. We never played 3 at the back when I played, so that must have been something that he listened to.
Did you ever challenge a manager?
Yeah, I mean...
Particularly as you were more experienced, as you got a little bit older, and maybe when you were captain at Everton or... Whatever.
Well, it's funny, when I was 18, I went on loan to Leyton Orient. Frank Clark and Brian Eastick. Frank Clark was manager, Brian Eastick is a big FA man, was his number 2. And Brian Eastick used to take all the training. And after training, I made a point to run. I pulled him. I didn't want to do it in front of all the lads. I was 18 years old.
You're a kid.
I'm a kid. But because I've been training with Arsenal first team since I was like 16 and a half. And when George Graham trains you, you retain the knowledge. So I made a point of saying, he was saying, when the fullback gets it, I want you to knock it in the channel. So my point to him was, what's the point knocking it in the channel if we're not moving the fullback out we're not moving the fullback out the channel. So he's just knocking it onto a fullback. So we're trying to run in behind, but it's never going to get in behind because the fullback's always there. I said, what we've got to do is try and move the fullback.
Pull him out of position.
Exactly. So I made that point to him. I said, Brian, not being funny. I said, I want this to work. I want to run in there. But what we do at Arsenal is we affect the fullback. Now, if the fullback don't want to come out the hole, then the wide man's going to get it. Now, the fullback's got a problem because he's got a wide man who's turned running. I don't have to run the channel now. He can play off me to feet, or I can come to feet and spin in behind and get it for goal. And he kind of looked at me and he said, don't worry about it. He said, you just run in the channel. That's what he said to me. That was a Tuesday. On the Thursday we were training. We worked on moving the fullback. He didn't want to admit it to me, pretty much like Charlie. You know, the manager didn't say, you're right. As soon as we worked on moving the fullback, we were in business. And that season, got promoted, playing that way.
Do you want a captain when you do manage to challenge you?
Yeah. I want my staff to challenge me. I want my players to challenge me. At the right time, you know, there's a respect that you've got to be there. But if they have a problem, have an issue, I have no doubt of players speaking up and having a conversation. Absolutely.
Doors open, and you don't want yes men.
No, it's not about yes men. It's about being the best version of yourself, and you know, giving the players a responsibility to actually drive it themselves, and you know, give them the onus to be successful, and like I say, have a freedom to be able to relax and enjoy the football. But if they've got an issue or they want to talk up, absolutely no problem with that, at the right times, and it's got to be respectful.
No, the other thing about when you're in a times of trouble and despair, we've spoken about, you know, managers trying to uplift the spirit. We've spoken about players needing to believe in themselves, getting the group to stick together. But the one thing that constantly comes at you guys when things are not going well is the press. You know, it's
And fans.
And social media now.
And fans.
and social media right now.
Yeah.
It's constantly haunting you guys, hounding you from the back as well. When you were playing, Kevin, when things were not going well, what was the strategy like in terms of dealing with the press? Because that can get really, really overwhelming at times.
Well, it can do, but you know what the press are. You've got to be honest with yourself, and if you haven't played well, you hold your hand up and said, "Listen, I haven't played well enough today." You've got to be honest, because if you try and battle the press, you're fighting a losing battle. The press are there to do a job, and sometimes we do think, as players, they don't know what they're talking about. Yes, we do sometimes, you know.
Have you had that moment where you've had to, you know, sound out a reporter and say,
Of course.
hang on a minute.
Yeah, if you haven't had a career. Let's put it that way. If you haven't had a career. But realistically, you do understand what the game is. The game is about winning. And sometimes the headlines are made when you're not doing well. When you're doing well, it's you know, they've done well. But when you're not doing well, there's more meat on the bone for them to go out. So what you always try and do, you always try and protect your team, you protect your teammates as best you can, and you try and be as honest as you can, within reason, because losing games is hard, man. Losing games is hard to take, and when you're struggling down there, and then people ask you the questions, you know, you lost again, you know, what's your thoughts on the loss? You know, you don't really want to be talking about that, but you have to take it on board and you have to try and come up with a proper answer that satisfies them, but doesn't say too much and incriminate your teammates. Very important, because egos are fragile when you're losing. It's hard. Football's a hard business when you're losing. It's great when you're winning, but hard when you're losing.
Did you take it home? Were you able to switch off?
I could switch off, but of course you took it home. Of course you took it home. Again, self-analysis is so important. And you know what? You can be in a room with people. I've been out for dinner with the wife and everything, and we've done all the bits and pieces, but it's still there. It never leaves you. People can say, yeah, I switch off. You don't.
Could people talk to you after a loss when you got home?
Yeah.
Because some people say that they go home, they just want to be alone.
Yeah, of course. That's some people, but you could talk to me after a loss, no problem. But my mind is still always with the game, because I'm a winner. Yeah. I want to win. I don't want to lose. I want to win. So, you know, that's all part and parcel of the profession. Charlie's had a long career. I've had a long career. This is stuff that you build and you insulate yourself with in how to get over things like that. Because we all want to win. We don't go out there to lose. But dealing with loss is part of football.
Could you be talked to after a match, or did you just want to be left alone?
No, I wouldn't want to be left alone. Listen, I'd sit quiet and I'd watch what was on the telly or whatever. But I wouldn't go to the extremes of going and sitting in a room on my own. And
some do. Yeah,
some do. Everybody's different. Everybody takes defeats different. Doesn't mean we don't care. You know, we all care, but we all take it different ways.
It's more
it
like...
wouldn't stop me going for dinner on a Saturday night as a player. As a manager, maybe that's different. A lot of managers change, but as a player, no, it wouldn't. Why try and take it home in terms of spoil everybody else's Saturday night?
Yeah,
it's difficult. So I'd try and, the best I can, I'd try and enjoy myself as much as I can. But yeah, I'd be down, I'd be upset, it'd hurt me, and I'd probably linger till the Sunday. But you've got to get over it as quick as you can, because if you don't, then it'll start affecting you week after week, and that was the way I done it.
I was reading an interview with Gonzalo Higuain recently. I think he just announced his retirement as well, and in that interview he spoke about how much, for the first time really, he spoke about it, how much throughout his career the press really, really affected him. Things that were being said in the media, things that were being said on social media even, it affected him to the point that he would struggle mentally.
Question himself.
Exactly, question himself. He had a lot of animosity built up as well. He had to take himself off it. Do you guys remember players or teammates that were that affected by the press as well?
You see it now that players are on the phones within 5 minutes of finishing a game, texting their agent, texting social media, sending pictures of winning games. Sorry to hear the fans for the loss. Thanks for the support. Wasn't the best result. I think that's the worst thing you can do. So I was never affected by the social media thing. I was never, the press, yeah, I had a few run-ins with the press in terms of the local people and that, but listen, you know yourself if you've not played well. You don't need people on the outside telling you that you're not good enough, because you always have these people that'll tell you that anyway. It doesn't matter if you play good or bad, there's always people doubting you. So I, self-critical of my own self, I never got myself wrapped up in what social media was saying. So no, it was different. The mental side of it, you deal with yourself. Do
you remember a teammate that was really affected by it?
Yeah, there was a few teammates of mine that would be affected by it, and not playing well, and what the media were saying, and you know, like I say, you just got to be there for them and try and help them through it. But I think the biggest thing now is that players are so engaged with the social media, and fans straight away after a game, when
Lose or draw.
yeah, they're on, you know, they only go on when they win, they don't go on when they lose, you know, and all that. So sometimes you just got to, you know, be calm, you know, don't get too high and don't get too low.
Balance. It's got to be balance. Got to be balance
Well,
in it.
we know what sells newspaper stories. We know what sells websites. It's the bad news. Why have Arsenal Fan TV done so well? If they were top of the table for the last 10 years, do you think AFTV would be as popular as it is now?
No, me personally, I think it's just, it was something new at the time, and Arsenal weren't doing so well.
But they went global because of these meltdowns.
Yeah, but my point I'm making is they weren't even the biggest watch videos. The best watch videos were some of the ones where Arsenal won. But nobody wants to talk about that because they don't want the nice story. They want the bad story, because the bad story and people going ranting and raving and swearing on camera, that's what gets people. And you know what? It wasn't just Arsenal fans. It was fans in general. Have you seen this? You need to see it. And people would go on and watch it and have a laugh. That's how it kind of worked out. And unfortunately, for some, it became too much. There became a lot of toxicity around the club because of AFTV. But whenever Arsenal won or players done well, they were always full of praise for the team. But nobody wants to really discuss that. It was you're toxic for the club and da 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 da. I think AFT have done a fantastic job. I think they've been pioneers, Robbie and those guys. Some of the characters on, yes, because you're dealing with people now, and the same guys who will be in the pub ranting and raving about the performance. Now all of a sudden you're seeing it on screen.
On YouTube. Yeah.
On YouTube, you're seeing it on screen, and it's going to be there forever. People levitate towards that. People like that sort of stuff. If it's not your team and Arsenal have lost, then you don't like Arsenal. This is the things dreams are made of. Look at all these guys melting down on camera, you know, and Arsenal are at the time. It's perfect. That's just the way it goes. It's nothing that wouldn't get spoken on if it's a away trip on the coach on the way back, or if you're at home and you're in the boozers. Everyone's opinion matters. But because it's on video, it took it went to another level.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's been 1 hour, and I have to say I've learned quite a few things. I've learned what you're going to be like dressed as a manager. I've learned that what Steve Bold does in his sleep.
Oh yeah.
Which is something new for me, but Kev and
Don't
Charlie.
get caught in the room.
No, I'll remember that, especially in one as small as this.
Oh, I wouldn't want him in here.
No. I want to thank both of you for joining me here for the conversation alongside Keish as well. What did you learn today, Keish?
No, I think the Steve Ball one is the one that's going to stick in my head for a very long time.
At least it's in your head, not in your nose.
Yeah, exactly. I'll
Not in
take
your
that.
face.
Yeah, not in my face. Yeah.
Horrible image. Squeaky bum time, wrapping up for another week. More very, very soon indeed. Hope you enjoyed the show. Till next time.